Good morning and welcome to A Better World with Julann and Fran. I'm Julann.
And I'm Fran, and our guest today is Gary Dennis. Welcome, Gary.
Welcome.
Hi there.
And can you talk a little bit about what it is that you are doing or have been doing that is making the world a better place?
You mean since I last saw you?
Sure.
Oh, how much time you got?
Mhm.
Well, let's see. I Since I last saw you, I ended up owning a movie rental store in the Upper West Side. So I'm not sure what you know about the past.
Oh, I don't. A movie rental place. Oh,
Yeah,
what?
remember those? Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
So yeah. All
blockbuster.
right. Yeah, I ran a Blockbuster out. So anyway, um, in fact, my store, if you ever saw the movie High Fidelity, after that, when that movie came out, people kept coming in saying they stole the look of your store. They stole the look of your store. It looked a lot like it, except it was not records. It was videotape initially, and then of course DVD, which we transferred over to very quickly once I realized that I could triple my storage capacity by doing so. Plus, DVDs were dirt cheap as compared to videotape. I don't know if you guys know that, but videotapes would wholesale for about $70, retail for about 100. About DVDs wholesaled for about $8 and retailed for about anywhere from 12 to $20. So it's like do the math and uh, I don't know where I know you're in California, Fran. I'm not sure where you are, Julianne, but New York real estate's a premium, and if you can triple your storage capacity without really doing anything, you're way ahead of the game. So I made that transition very quickly. Through the store, I got a street renamed after Humphrey Bogart, who was born on my block, and I got mad that the city had not recognized that. So uh, I had a petition drive. One of my customers was a writer for the Times who wrote an article about it. The next thing I know, I'm getting a lot of weirdo phone calls, but eventually got the street name change and got a plaque on the building. The city owns the building. It was a single family home that was turned into an apartment row of apartments and like a row of brownstones. So again, I don't know where are you, Julianne? Where are you located?
I'm in Rockland County. I'm in New York. I'm from
Oh,
Brooklyn.
okay.
Like,
Okay.
so
So when I say brownstone, you're not you
yeah,
know what I'm talking about,
yeah.
All right. So it was a row of brownstones that had been taken over by the city in the late 50s and through a lot of back and forth. At first, the housing authority thought the building was built in 1959. I said, no, that's when you took it over. And then they looked further and then they realized that I was right. And then Lauren Bacall came to the unveiling of the street sign and the plaque on the building, which uses my words. If they actually used what I wrote, the building would have fallen over, but would have ripped right off the facade, right? The whole facade would have come down. But long story short, Humphrey Bogart Place is there, and as long as there's a city of New York, Humphrey Bogart will be remembered. And I got mad because I saw his face go by on a bus selling watches. I mean, the guy had been dead for almost 50 years at that point, but they're still using his image. And my argument was that he became who he became because of where he lived. That was the thing. And again, long story short, his best friend in the neighborhood was the son of a theater producer, got him a job in the office as an office boy right after World War One. He served briefly in World War One, ends up in this office, ended up as a stage manager, and to this day, you go to a Broadway show and you'll see that the stage managers are members of Actors Equity, and that's because they were the understudies once upon a time. So, Fran, you remember Mick Turk?
Yes.
Yeah, Nick Turk said that the stage manager would take over as director on the road, and if the show is good, they'd credit the original director. If the show is bad, they blame the stage manager. So stage managers have been getting a short end of the stick for the past 150 years, but they are members of Actors Equity because they were the understudies. So the story is that Bogart found what he wanted to do when he had to go on one night. So it was because of that relationship in the neighborhood, and I got a little pushback from our community board, which didn't like doing street name changes at that point, and because there had been a lot after 9/11. And I said, well, you just renamed a street after Chico Farrell. And this woman on the committee, who was a real piece of work, she said, well, he bled for the neighborhood. I said, that's great, but you take a picture of Chico Farrell, you take a picture of Humphrey Bogart, and you go to some coal mine in Eastern Europe, you go to the bottom of that coal mine, you find a coal miner, who are they going to know? They're going to know Bogart, right? So the store closed. The store, we were sort of forced out. The building, the new owners of the building thought that there was going to be a huge project between 105th and 106th on Broadway, which didn't happen because of the financial collapse in 2008. So it was fine because the industry was going to die. Streaming was already starting to happen, and Netflix was eating into me. So, oh, the people, the same people that ask you for donations, you see them go into the mailbox with a red envelope, right? So, the point is that uh, it was a blessing in disguise that we were gotten rid of as soon as we were, because if I had gone another year, I would never have been able to sell the collection, which I did. I sold it to Columbia University, and they did the Raiders of the Lost Ark thing on it, packed it up and put it in a warehouse and never touched it. So um, the I didn't know what to do with myself. I worked for two guys who were looking to buy film libraries, and I was doing research. And then it turns out one of them was involved with an insider trading scandal. And it was around that time that I had flirted with the idea of becoming tour guide. So it was actually my wife who said to me, I was listening to a guy on a double-decker bus, and I said, that's terrible. It's terrible. It's wrong what he's saying. It's terrible what he's saying. So my wife said to me, well, if you think you do it better, then shut up and do it, just do it. So I said, fine. And I went and got my license, which I have right here. Whoops. Here it is with my picture from 20. I can't see it because it's like
Put
blurred,
it, if you
but
put it in front of your face.
oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
now we can see it.
And also you can see this, Fran. I don't know if you can tell what that is.
That's a
All
token.
right, so well, it's not an actual token, but I have the model for it in my
Right.
pocket. And this is another story unto itself. But anyway, after they got arrested, these two guys, I said, you know what? Maybe I should just tour guide, because I came from a psychotically competitive family of know-it-alls.
Mhm.
So it sounds like fun, but it really kind of wasn't. It was just a way to get attention. You had to know something. It was like the New Yorker, but without cartoons, right? So I had specialized in old theaters. In fact, it was and this is someone that Fran probably remembers, Dr. Sam Leiter. All right,
Ah,
I think he was a PhD. Well, regardless, I took his theater history, that 2 semester course, and I love history and I love theater, right? So I also love theaters and became obsessed with theaters at a very early age. And he gave me this book to do a report on. I don't know why he did this. I don't know if I asked him, but he gave me this book called Theater in the City by oh man, I'm going black. Mary Burns, I think is her name, and she's a theater historian. And I think that's her name. I have another book of hers called about the New Amsterdam Theater and its restoration, which is a book that's so heavy. If you dropped it on somebody, you would kill them. It has
oh,
fold out panels and everything, right? So I became obsessed with the idea that everything on this island moves up, and the first Shakespeare play ever performed in the United States was performed in New York downtown on Park Road. There was the Park Theater, and there's still a remnant of it. There's a street called Theater Alley. It was behind the theater, right? That's so cool. There hasn't been a theater there since the late 1830s, but hey, the street survived, all right? So that's cool. Theaters in Brooklyn. When I started going, see, I was from Manhattan. I was going to Brooklyn College, and I was on an escalator yesterday in a Target, and someone said, guy in front of me said, I never met anybody who graduated from Brooklyn College. And I said, I did. I and like, I was just like this random stranger on an escalator in a Target down in Lower Manhattan. I did, and he was very nice about it. He was not really disparaging Brooklyn College, but the point is when I started going to Brooklyn and started dating its women, all right, I would see things that I never saw before. And I remember seeing Lowe's Oriental and becoming obsessed with that. And I found interior photographs because by the time I saw it, it was on the last legs of being a theater. And then it became a Marshalls, right? So, which is a common conversion of theaters in areas where they're not going to tear something down and put up a high rise. So that's kind of what happened to the Lowe's Oriental. So I'm not sure. I don't remember where you're from in Brooklyn, Fran. Where are you
I'm
from?
from Flatlands near
Okay.
Kings Plaza.
Okay, so there's not a tremendous amount of movie palaces out that way, but if you go further down towards Brooklyn College, there was the Farragut Theater, there was the Flatbush Theater, you go further down Flatbush, of course, there's the Kings, which I don't know if you ever saw pictures of, Fran, but it was a mess because the city did nothing with it for I don't know how much since the late 70s is when they took it over. And there's a documentary on YouTube you can find it called Memories of a Movie Palace. So you can see it right before it got really bad. And now it's after $94 million. It's a
Yeah.
theater again. And I don't remember if you remember this. LIU has a gym that was the Brooklyn Paramount. That's back to being a theater, and it all had to do with Brooklyn coming into its own and really becoming a place to go, an entertainment destination. Barclays Center proved successful, right? And then Los Kings happens because of that. And because of the success of Los Kings, you took this, what had been a theater, turned it to a gym, and then turned it into back into a theater, right? So it's like, wow, that's, it's like this circle of life, right? So there you go. So it's kind of an amazing process, right? So going back to what happened to me, I did become a tour guide. I hated being on the double decker buses. I hated it so much that I didn't tour guide for I think like 8 or 9 months. And my wife said to me, there's other companies out there. You're an idiot. Go find another company, right? So I found another company that gave you a bus and a group of people for 6 hours or 5.5, but I'd go six because I talk a lot, as you're discovering. And I liked it. You had a dedicated audience. The hop on, hop off buses, you don't get anything. You can't tell your story, right? So tour guiding is telling a story. It's a performance, right? So you're telling a story, and I always love when I see the realization when I weave something back, right? And it was a process that I had to figure out, and I did figure it out. And of course, my Brooklyn College theater training probably helped, and the subsequent training after that, it helped. Vocal training, absolutely. And uh, I ended up in a working for a company that said, "Do you have liability insurance?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Well, you should join the Guide Association of New York." And the Guide Association of New York has a liability policy that you pay into, but it's better than going out on your it's a little less expensive than going out on your own, and you hopefully never use it. That's the whole point, right? So I became a member, and then my goodness, a little over 5 years ago, I think it is 4 years ago, I'm in my second term of a 2-year term as being on the board, right? So I'm what they call member at large, which is like, you're there to vote, you're there to advise, and you're there to be liaisons to various committees. So the Guide Association has grown to almost 400 tour guides. There's more tour guides than that in New York City. I am also the chairman by accident of the NYC 400 committee, which is now the NYC 400 USA 250 committee. And that's what this pin is about. All right. So it says on it what it would say on a real token, which I don't have my token with me, but I have a bunch. I kept some. It says it says good for one fair, right? Good for one fair. I changed it to say good for 400 years because we turned 400 last year and the city of New York did absolutely nothing about it. Probably partially because it was an election year, right? And that's one. Number two is a lot of people were caught up in extortion and bribery scandals, like the mayor, right? So that's a bit of a problem, right? So they're not going to be focusing on anything but ducking indictments.
Anything good,
And yeah,
right?
on nothing good. They're going to focus on nothing good. That's the point. So they really kind of dropped the ball. And the city of New York, as big as it is and as important as, and it's the number one tourist destination in the United States, believe it or not, more than Orlando, more than Vegas, and no offense, but more than LA. All right. So, and definitely more than Rockland County. So no offense, So,
Hey,
but
listen, I'm in New York. Doesn't
yeah,
matter
but
where in
doesn't
New York.
matter. Doesn't matter. I know. So the city doesn't have an official agency, right? They have agencies for everything, but they don't have a tourism agency. Sarajevo, which is what, a tenth of the size of New York, they got a tourist agency, but we don't. And that's insane. So my I was originally co-chair of this committee, but the other two people kind of dropped out. They kind of disappeared, right? So I ended up doing something to prove that this should be the logo, right? This should be the logo of I put it by my face, right? NYC 200, NYC 400 committee. I went and got this, which is,
Look at
Whoa,
you.
it was a
that's
ra
cool.
it was a rash decision, I know, but turns out I didn't have to do it. But I think it's kind of cool. So there you go. So I got it done and in October of 24, and my daughter took me, which is cool. I never thought I'd be saying, yes, my daughter took me to get a tattoo, So these things happen. What are you going to do? So I Now I'm the chairman of the NYC 400 USA 250 committee. So my feeling is that New York comes first, that this country started here. Everything started here. Everything. Movie industry started here. Why did it go to California? Weather, number
Better,
one.
right?
Better weather. Topography, which we did have here. So you're in Rockland County, so further south in Fort Lee. There was a whole lot of movies made over there. The Perils of Pauline were filmed there because of the cliffs. It can look like Wild Westy kind of thing, right? That's the idea. You want, but topography out in California is a little more vast. But there were people in my neighborhood who got together to form a company, and one of them was a guy named William Hodkinson, who was a film distributor from the Midwest who moved to Ogden, Utah. Let me look at my accent, Utah. All right, Utah, right? Man, thought I would get rid of that. All right. Anyway, he's in Ogden, Utah, and there was a mountain in the background. He's doodling the mountain, and he moves to New York with a dream of putting together a bunch of distribution companies into one super distribution company. And to understand why these were important, you'd have to go back, into film history, but they were important once upon a time. So this guy puts together 14 companies and named them after the building he lived in. And there's a whole lot of myths surrounding where the name came from. It came from a building, 315 West 99th, and that building's name is Paramount. Yeah, I saw your jaw drop. There you go. Yeah, so absolutely. So the people that he partnered up with was a guy named Jesse Lasky, Jesse Lasky's brother-in-law, a guy named Sam Goldfish, who became Sam Goldwyn, and a guy named Adolf Zucker, who is known as the Fox. And together to beat out, and this is the other reason why it moved out west, to get away from Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison was a racist, anti-Semitic jerk. All right, there's a lot of nasty things that have been said about him over the years, and unfortunately, most of them are true. All right, so this guy he didn't invent the movie camera. He just had the patents on it. And if he didn't like you, if you were Jewish, he doesn't feel like giving you the right to use the camera. He's not going to take your money. He's going to say no, right? So to avoid that, these guys put together a production company that sent a young Cecil B. DeMille to a place no one ever heard of to make a movie far out of the grasp of Thomas Edison. And that was Hollywood, California. First movie ever filmed in Hollywood was a bunch of guys on the Upper West Side who were trying to beat out Thomas Edison. It worked, right? It worked. So there you go. So that's why I say the movie industry started here. Sound movies started here. Color television tubes started here. The Oreo cookie, the gifts that the city of New York has given the world. The Bill of Rights was written in New York. The idea of what went into the Constitution in terms of freedom of the press and freedom of religion were all cases that happened here and made its way into the Constitution, right? And we're talking going back to the Dutch era in terms of freedom of religion, right? It's because Peter Stuyvesant turns out he had issues with the Quakers, which is like really weird. Like, why would you have issues with them? They're like, they're all about friendship, right?
Right.
So yeah, what's your problem, man? So like, lighten up. But it all started here, and that's still the slogan. It all started here. It all started here, um, and there you go. So I'm trying to get the word out about Guide Association New York. We call it GANIC for short because it takes too long to say Guide Association of New York City. So GANIC, it does, right? So GANIC, our name is becoming more and more visible, and I just want it to be more and more visible, especially to government offices. Mayor Adams did proclaim a Guide Day because on our 50th anniversary 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So that was kind of cool. I'm ducking indictments, but here's my signature. It will never hold up in court. There you go. So, and I didn't take money from the Turks. All right. So it's just getting our name out there. That's always been my push for this. In fact, somebody asked at a meeting once, what is the biggest thing you want for organic? And I said, I just kind of screamed legitimacy. I kind of did. Just like that, just so that government agencies take it seriously. So as I started to say about New York being a huge tourist destination, I'm going down to Battery Park in a bit because I'm meeting a group down there. And I will be wading through a sea of third-party ticket selling scammers, right? That the city does nothing about. It's like
Mm.
I know you have similar situation in California with the CD guys, which now use a card with a QR code on it. It's free speech. However, if you're selling something in the park, you need to have a permit. And so every now and then they do round these guys up. but they will outright lie. They'll tell people that the statue is closed. They'll tell the people that the park is closed, or you have to pay an admission to the park. They ask to see tickets that they have no business looking at. It's like, you're going to a theater and some guy in the streets, I need to see your tickets. No, you don't. You don't need to see it. So if they don't see my license hanging off my neck, they will, uh, say something. They will see this and they kind of like grumble, tour guide, like, oh, so in the way I'm trying to make it better, I'm trying to make our thing a more noticed thing as opposed to just this group of people that get together and talk to each other about seedy guys in Times Square or the third party ticket scammers or how somebody, was late or whatever. We want more than that. We want to be taken more seriously. So, and that's my goal for this.
Oh,
It's a good
that's
goal.
that's wonderful. And you received quite the honor just recently,
Which one?
the fridge magnet.
Oh, the fridge magnet, isn't that incredible? So I had a group of kids who were performing at Carnegie Hall. And so they what happens with a group for me is I do get emotionally attached to them, like because you're worrying about them for 5 days, right? And there's like always there's always one kid initially that will glom onto you and they want to hold. I carry a flag when I have a big group. It's the flag of the city of New York, which is shockingly a lot of people don't recognize it, right? People like come up to me in a very heavy New York accent and say, "You're from France," or they say "Bonjour." It's like it's our flag. I even got into a fight with a security guy at Statue of Liberty security tent because he's like picking up, he's like, "What is this?" And I said, "You don't recognize that? You passed 30 of these from the subway to the security tent. If you don't recognize this, God knows what's getting by here. You shouldn't be working here." And he didn't like that I said that. Well, you know what? Too bad. Recognize, be observant, right? Because like, Walkman, phone, gun, knife, phone, I mean, what are you looking for, right? So he got mad, called over a supervisor who just shut him down. But it's amazing that people don't recognize the flag. And it's not red, white, and blue. It's orange, white, and blue because orange is for the Dutch. This was a Dutch colony first. Blue is for the British. And then there's the seal of the city of New York, right? So that's not on the French flag, right? So anyway, these kids, and it's in that image too, that thing, right? It's like they caught it. It must be a photograph. It had to be based on a photograph, but I never saw the photograph. So I got a text from the lead teacher saying, our thank you for I don't remember how she phrased it, but she was very grateful or uh, and making New York a accessible to them, and even though they were staying in Jersey, there's still it was the kids had fun and they learned something, right? So that's always important. If you kind of hide it and then they walk away, damn it, I learned something, right? So you've done your job, right? You've done your job. So this group of kids, I don't know what they used, but they made this magnet and sent
Oh,
me one. Yeah, it's on my
Nice.
refrigerator right now.
may I share it? I have it on my screen.
Then go ahead, share it. Yeah.
Can you see that? Oh, I have to click share.
Yeah, probably. Fran has started sharing. There you go. And it's not there yet. Double click to enter full screen mode. There it is. There I am.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's
Is,
great.
isn't
Yeah.
that great? Mr.
Wow, you did
Gary.
a
Yeah.
beautiful job. I like the cab,
The-
all of it.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And the skyline is a little skewed, but that's okay. I gotta shut up and let it go. All right. But
it's
I
really,
I recognize the jacket. That's a real jacket I have. It looks like a leather jacket, but it's not. It's a rain jacket because it's raining that day. And there's my flag.
yeah.
And my left hand there, and there's my license, and they
And
got
your
that.
ID around your
Yeah,
neck. I see
yeah,
the
yeah,
chain.
yeah.
Nice.
So it's
Cool.
pretty cool, pretty cool. And I this got a huge number of comments and likes, more than a lot of things. So that's always flattering. And there's an influencer named Sarah Funky that I did a video with about a theater uptown, and that's doing pretty well. And you know, it was a theater that was mentioned in Joe Biden's inaugural ceremony, which is like
Oh,
right. It's Lin-Manuel's favorite theater, Lin-Manuel Miranda's favorite theater. So he read some poem or he read something during the inauguration that was basically a Zoom call, just a nationwide Zoom call, right? and Tom Hanks introduced him from the United Palace in his Washington Heights neighborhood. It's like, when does a movie theater get mentioned in an inaugural
Right.
ceremony, right? And it's my favorite theater architect. So a guy named Thomas Lamb, who turns out was never licensed, but yeah, it was a different world, right? So, hey, hopefully it won't fall over, right? That kind of thing. So, I mean, that turned out happened more than you think. People that were not licensed doing things that they should have been licensed for, but um, nothing fell over. So that's good. So if you're familiar with Broadway theaters, the Court Theater, which is now known as the James Earl Jones, that was a Thomas Lamb. And that's built for legit. He ended up designing movie palaces, and those are a different animal altogether. But he designed the first theater to go over 5,000 seats, the Capitol Theater in New York, which is gone. He also designed in California, his furthest west theater is now Kansas City, the Midland Theater in Kansas City, Missouri, which has a piece of New York in it. But the San Francisco Fox, the fabulous Fox, which was torn down in the early 60s because not enough people voted. And it just fell. It fell because nobody voted. Not enough people voted. Not enough people took this what do you call them, initiative seriously. So it failed by only a few hundred votes. It was like amazingly close, but it was basically torn down because of apathy. And the problem is those theaters can't survive. They're these big 5,000 seat theaters. They're not sustainable. So the Capitol Theater was replaced by what is now known as the Gershwin, where Wicked has been for the past 21 years. So that's why that theater's there. The Capitol was too big to be a Broadway theater, but the Gershwin is the biggest of the Broadway theaters. It's just about 2,000 seats. So it's got a huge stage. It's where Sweeney Todd was originally. And Wicked's been there, and that's a heavy in terms of effects. It's a heavy show. So yeah, you need a big stage for that. So there's reasons for everything. Um, so Thomas Lamb designed as he got later in his career. These were styles that were made up. They don't exist anywhere in the world. And Lowe's 175th, right? What I say about it is that if Southeast Asia ever went through a Baroque era, it would look just like that theater, all right? But it didn't. It's like over the top, and it's not supposed to be real. It's not supposed to. As I say in this video, I say that these were, as Thomas Lamb, I'm quoting Thomas Lamb, these are palaces for the everyman, right? And it makes absolute sense. And you used to have to go out. You used to have to go out. Once upon a time, you had to go out to go to a movie, right? So the theaters themselves did something. So up in Rockland County, you got the Lafayette Theater. I think that's in Rockland County.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
uh,
That theater,
Steve.
I forget who designed it. Yeah, but it's a nice theater. It's just imagine that on steroids.
Yeah.
Imagine that. All right, that's what these theaters were like. And I grew up with two Thomas Lamb theaters that I used to go to all the time when I was a kid. And my grandmother, who had a series of strokes, told me there was another theater above it. And I thought it was her stroke talking, right? But turns out she was right. I was wrong. It was a theater with a heavy duty Japanese motif that was not going to be popular after December 7th, 1941.
Oh,
That and a fire code change, which kind of dictated that theater was not the safest proposition in the world. So the theater was used as a rehearsal hall primarily. But I do have pictures of it, and I actually do a during the pandemic, I had a transition to webinars, right? So I do tours for a company called New York Adventure Club. I do a subway history tour, and we found each other. I think I'm not sure who found who, but long story short, my God, 13 years ago, I started doing tours for this kid. He was like right out of college, and he figured out Facebook, right? He had a Facebook following for basically a young singles meetup group that escalates into a tourism company. That's how a lot of these things started, right? So he says to me at the beginning of the pandemic, he says, "Do you think you could do your subway tour as a webinar?" And I said, "What's a webinar?" Right? So we did it. And then he said, "Can you do a Grand Central?" And I said, "Yeah, I could do Grand Central." So the first time I did Grand Central, 800 people showed up. 800
Wow.
people. I know, right? And we were getting numbers like 400, for the subway. But oh my God, now it's nothing like it was. But we still are doing them. And I was contacted by the New York Historical Society, which is now just called New York Historical because society just implies something else, right? So they asked me if I would do a theater, something for them, and I suggested a theater history, um, Upper West Side theater history. So I called it The Lost Theaters of Broadway, an Upper West Side story. And it covers the theater from 74th Street, which is the Beacon, to 110th Street, where there used to be a theater called the Nemo, right? And in between there, there's 31,000 seats. So that is a huge number of seats. So you're really saying something about a neighborhood. You're saying that there's a lot of people with money to spend and they need entertainment, right? And the theaters on 96th Street, which become almost, I want to say, my focus of this. One of those theaters was the Schubert Brothers Riviera Theater. The Schuberts had taken a lease on this theater, and it was used for something that only happened in New York City. Didn't happen anywhere else. It was called the Subway Circuit. So a show would play. In fact, the show that they filmed that started Paramount, their ad was, fresh from Broadway after 250 performances with exclamation points. Like this was like, oh my God, can you believe 250 performances, right? So that's what a show ran back then. It didn't have to run 38 years. No show
Right.
should run 38 years, right? What is this, Disney World? Get out of here, right? Move on, right? So, the Hall of Presidents, right? So you don't need that. You don't need that. So, but back then, a show would play on Broadway. It ran its 300 performances. That's enough. Get out. Something else has got to come in. And we're talking at a time when there were 80 Broadway theaters, right? In the 20s, there were 80. So a show would play in a neighborhood theater at a seriously reduced price. And 96th Street was ideal. See, all these things, history is all connected. And that is something that I criticized that book, the Theater in the City, about, that it doesn't make the connections to what's happening. So the New York Central owned a train line that runs along Hudson River on the Manhattan side, right? And once upon a time, you had direct access to those tracks and vaudeville shows, because the B.F. Keith Riverside Theater was on 96th Street. Right next door was the Schubert Theater. These things traveled by rail. That was what a bus and truck tour was once upon a time, right? A road tour was railroad. You went by railroad. So that access made it easy to load a show. In fact, they were doing subway circuit shows until the early 50s. The last gasp of the original production of Streetcar Named Desire, starring Richard Kiley as Stanley Kowalski, played at the Windsor Theater in the Bronx, right? So then it went on the road. Just take it on the road. But at 96th Street, it was easier. And vaudeville shows traveled as a unit. And, Chico Marx said once that, we'd play a town and we go on the road. We're on the road for 2 years. And we come back to that town. They want to see the same thing again. They don't want to see anything new. They want to see what made them laugh the first time, right? So it was movies, sound movies, and then, of course, TV that will just, eat up everybody's uh, material. Right? Jerry Lewis said when they asked him to host, him and Dean Martin to host the Colgate Comedy Hour, he said only, like, once every few months, not all the time, because it's just going to eat up our material. And he was absolutely right. Absolutely. So there you go. So I hope I am bettering the world, bringing to light these these things that it's like Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. She bettered the world, absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, the history has not been nice enough to her. In the entryway, the main door entry, I call it the main door. The main door to Grand Central, there's a foyer. It's called the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis foyer, which I think is not enough. And there's a plaque on the wall that is terrible. If I was Carolyn, I'd get that thing off the wall right now. It's like the worst depiction of Jacqueline ever made. And I think she's owed more than that, because she did make the world better, and she did it subtly. She didn't grandstand,
Yeah,
and
just classy.
she was right, and she didn't over the top it. It's like there's like the whole thing with this arch, right? That this 250-foot tall arch. That's that's something that Jackie
Over the
would never
top.
have done. It's over the top, and it's something that Jackie would never would have done. It also
Right.
aesthetically, it doesn't go with what's around you. So she led the fight to save Grand Central, came up with the best slogan: "No more bites out of the Big Apple, save Grand Central." Simple as that, right? So
Mhm.
with her, it went all the way to the Supreme Court, the case to save Grand Central. So before I was born in 1978, right? I'm lying, right? So, so um,
Just barely,
just
though.
barely. I think I was, yeah, I just learned how to walk at that point. But uh, the Supreme Court made one of its top five best decisions ever, and that the city of New York has the right to protect its historic structures, and I think that's fantastic, and um, good for the Supreme Court, and good for us, good for the city of New York for finally, with two city agencies communicate. This is what happens. We saved Grand Central, so it was a miracle that it happened, and it's been restored. So
Yeah.
I don't know when you moved out of New York, Fran. When did you move out of New York?
1990.
Okay, so you were there for all the bad, but Grand Central, have you been back? You have been back. Duh.
I
I know
have.
you've been back. Have you been
Yeah.
inside Grand Central since you've been back?
Yes.
All right. And do you notice there's a spot on the ceiling that's dark? Do you know
Yeah.
about that? Yeah. So,
No.
oh, okay. There's a spot on the ceiling that's dark. It looks like a brick and it's very subtle. All right. And it's all the way, if you're facing the tracks, it's on the left. It's right below the crab. So whatever the crab stands for in astrology or astronomy, whatever. Yeah, all right. I mixed the two up. All right. So anyway, they left that unrestored. That is unrestored Grand Central Terminal ceiling. And I remember when they unveiled it, I mean, I said, where's the light coming from? Right. And I said basically what everybody else said. I had no idea it was that color because it was so dark, right? And because of this restoration, giving us back the terminal that the people that wanted to tear it down, the Penn Central, they wanted to tear it down. They didn't take care of it. The New York Central couldn't afford to take care of it after a certain point. So there was like decades of neglect in there, and everybody used to smoke. That's what made it dark, right? And
Oh.
people are always surprised. I asked the group, what do you think made it so dark? They always say, oh, it's the trains. No, trains are electric. What kind of smoke do trains give off? It's cigarette smoke, right? And it's a teachable moment. That's why, kids, you don't smoke, right? You don't want your lungs to look like
See
restored.
all these good
Yeah.
things you're doing.
Yeah. See, keep kids from smoking, right? Because I smoked and I quit 23 years ago. Not that I'm counting. I am counting. If they came out and told me tomorrow that cigarettes were healthy, I'd run out and buy a pack, like the vitamin C. I don't know
Right.
if you're, yeah, I was quite the chimney. So the point is that cigarette smoke is terrible for you, and it rises until it hits something, and when it hits something, it clings to it because cigarette smoke is sticky, and then everything in the air is going to cling to that. So they left it up there as a warning. Do not let this happen again. This place is too special, and it cost $800 million to fix it. So don't mess it up, right? So that's the warning. But it's a good warning, and people should be respectful. And we took it for granted. We take things for granted. I took things for granted. I took this town for granted. It was I was on the Brooklyn Bridge with my brother who lives in Italy since 1989, and my son was still an infant. I was because he was in a stroller and we're trying to get him to take a nap after lunch. So I decided to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge with my brother who was visiting from Italy. And he stops in the middle of the bridge. He says, "This is so beautiful." And I turned to him, I said, "Oh my God, you're right. It is beautiful." And I've been taking it for granted. And then you don't notice it until it's gone. It's like
Yeah.
then all of a sudden something's gone. You say, "Oh man, I like that. Oh, it's too." So
Right.
uh, it's better to notice before it's gone, is what I'm saying. So that's what I would love for people to do. Notice it before it's gone, notice this before it's gone, and hopefully it won't go, right? So,
Right.
and then people always say to me, I can't believe they almost tore this down. And I say, yeah, right, right. So there you go. All right.
All right. Well, if somebody is
Okay.
either, I'm sorry, Jill, were you going to say something?
I said, thank you.
Oh, yes.
Keep
Thank
up
you.
the good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on a mission.
Good for you.
Yeah,
It's a good
mission.
mission.
A mission from
Now,
Gannick. Yeah. So,
if somebody wants you to be their tour guide, how do they get in touch with you?
well, they can contact me. My website is newyorktoursbygary.com, and also on Facebook, again, New York Tours by Gary. I sound like a haircutter, right? New York, haircuts by Gary. Or like on that refrigerator bag, Mr. Gary. It sounds like a haircutter, right? So there was a barber in my neighborhood who claimed to have cut Humphrey Bogart's hair, and it's possible that he did. Who's called Mr. K. So I feel like a barber, Mr. or a beauty operator is what I call him now, right? So the point is that New York Tours by Gary is always going to be me, and Facebook, Instagram, and of course my website, newyorktoursbygary.com. So there you go.
Thank you. And Jewel, do you have any more questions?
I don't. I think
Okay.
we covered all the bases.
Where in are you in Rockland County?
New City.
New City? Okay, so I'm not my mother-in-law did live in Piermont for a while.
Oh,
and
Okay.
she had an incredible view. And
Yeah.
I know you're in California, Fran. I always mix up where you are. Where are you? Are you in Burbank? I just want to say Burbank, but I think that's wrong.
I have lived in Burbank
Ah,
several
see?
times, but at the
Oh,
moment I live in Van Nuys.
nice. All right, there you go. Is it nice over there? It sounds nice.
It is. It's got its goods and bads.
All
We're
right.
right around the corner from the Van Nuys airport,
Oh, okay.
at which the final scene of Casablanca was
Was
filmed.
right. They
And
uh they used a fake plane.
okay.
Yeah, but just to make it look like a distance. They used to, there was something that they did to make it look like it was further away. There
Oh,
was like all these tricks they used to do. It's like if you ever see a movie called Night of the Hunter, there's a shot of Robert Mitchum on a horse and in the background, and he's singing a song, Leaning, that's repeats throughout the film. And he's a psychotic preacher that's chasing these two kids that he's going to kill, right? Because they got the money that their father had robbed the bank for, right? So the way they shot it, they put a small person on a donkey and had Robert Mitchum's voiceover, singing the song, and the kid looks at this image, it's sunrise and it's all in silhouette, and the kid just says, "Don't he never sleep?" Which I thought was a great line. Um, there are things, so I'm turning 65 in May, and I don't look it, but there's something in California near you that we have here, and that finally people about 15 years ago figured out how to use swing rings. So in Santa Monica, of course, my vision of LA is that everything's close together, and I know rationally it's not, right? But in Santa Monica, you got the swing rings, and the only other set of swing rings in the world was right in Riverside Park, right down the hill from me, right?
oh,
So I figured out how to use them, and hurt my hands a bunch of times, and then I hurt my shoulder right before the pandemic, and I said, "It's a sign I should not do this."
Right.
Because I don't want that rotator cuff surgery, and I don't want to go through that. So with the pandemic and my healing my shoulder, it's all better now. I am going to do it before my 65th birthday, and I'll post it on Facebook. Look, I'm 65, but I can still do this.
Nice.
Take that, nature, stupid nature. All right, so getting in my way. All right. Anyway, I'll let you go, Fran. Great to see you. Sorry I'm not more present at the Brooklyn College reunion things. So for those of you who don't know, Fran and I went to school together, and it's always usually on a day I can't do it for various reasons. And I don't remember a lot of the people, and I don't know if they remember me, but there's some names. Of course, the loss of Robin Watkins this year was pretty bad within the last year. So she was kind of an awesome person. I was in a show she directed and felt that she was missing her call she was totally different person as a director, but in a good way. And that's like one of my standout memories from Brooklyn College was that her
yeah.
and her directing um, and walking down the aisle with her at Bob Lewitz's wedding.
Oh,
So, you know, that was fun. So, anyway,
okay.
all right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And this has been another episode of A Better World with Julann and Fran. Please like and share this video and join us again.
Thank you.
Okay, so long for now, and thank you. Okay, yes.